Big shout out to today's video sponsor, Linsoul. Check out their fantastic deals in the links in the video description. When CarPlay left OnePlus and created nothing, I was skeptical but hopeful. A year after its debut phone, and I'm impressed. Straight up, this is one of the best phones you can buy for £300 or under, and let me talk to you why I think this is one of the best phones in its category, the Nothing Phone 1. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas. I'm fully aware I need a haircut, and a big thanks to Damien Wild for sending out this smartphone, so links to his stuff will be in the video description. Let's talk about what this is. It's a mid-range smartphone that was released last year. It costs £300 on the used market. For a decent example, it has a Snapdragon 778G Plus with 8 or 12 gigs of RAM and 128 or 256 gigs of storage. It also has a 4500 mAh battery with 33 watt fast charging, a 6.55 inch Full HD Plus 120Hz OLED display, and a pair of 50 megapixel rear cameras. It's actually fairly stacked for a mid-ranger as long as you don't look explicitly at the SoC and the RAM. The design is somewhat reminiscent of iPhones, with the flat size and the camera cluster in the top corner. It has a thin uniform bezel and a punch hole camera. However, of course, as you've likely seen already, this thing has some really cool LEDs on the back that create a unique shape and I think look really cool. They're also customizable in the settings and they set this thing apart from others in the category. It would be totally unfair for me to call this thing ergonomic and the equivalent iPhone not. I think that flat sides can look really nice, but actually when you hold the phone in the hand, it just doesn't really feel the same. There's a reason why phones usually have curved backs or curved sides. It's because it makes them easier to hold. And whilst this thing might be grippier to hold than a sort of more sleek design, it doesn't feel as comfortable and can dig into your hands at points. It does feel fairly well built though, and it comes with an IP53 rating for water and dust resistance, which is quite decent for a mid-ranger, but isn't as well certified as other more expensive phones. It also has dual SIM support and comes in white as well. The 6.55 inch 120Hz OLED display is pretty good. So good that I would absolutely be happy using this day in day out. Quad HD Plus is nice to have, 144Hz the same, but really you don't need either, and this 1080p panel at 120Hz is as fluid and as nice to use as pretty much anything else, unless you're really into your displays and you're a bit of a nerd for that kind of thing. It's big enough to enjoy content on, the punch hole doesn't really get in the way, and overall it's a great experience for playing games, watching films and just scrolling through Reddit. Performance concerns might be valid going long term due to the fact this thing uses a mid-range SoC and not a flagship one. That usually means that whilst at the start when the phone comes out it's fairly speedy, as you progress those higher end SoCs come into their own because they're able to stay quicker for longer. This isn't one of those, hence the sort of concern around it. However, a year later it seems to be as fluid as it really needs to be. It doesn't feel like there's any major slowdowns, any major hiccups, so you should be good going into it a year later. Coming from someone who uses an iPhone 14 Pro as their daily smartphone, I really didn't feel a big enough performance delta between the two phones, at least in normal day-to-day tasks, that it warranted the significant difference in price. The 4500 mAh battery is a bit less exciting and excellent. It lasted me a full day, which is fine, but that's with a mid-level use case and a 60% brightness, some Bluetooth streaming to earphones for about 30 minutes, and mostly social media usage over Wi-Fi. I entered the day with about 20% battery life, which is respectable, but like I said, I'm not a heavy user. If you're the sort of person to stay on your phone all day, play some games, watch some YouTube, it can quickly add up, and actually you might need to top it up halfway through the day, which is pretty easy to do with 33 watt wired or 15 watt wireless charging. It's not the fastest we've ever seen, but as I've said in many other reviews recently, I actually prefer this approach because using a slightly lower wattage increases the life of the battery and is mainly useful for when you go to sell the phone on and buy it on the used market. You're able to get something with a higher quality battery from the factory because it hasn't been chucked 120 watts its entire life. It means that it can last a bit longer. Nothing OS, the Android 13 skin on here, is one I really like. The digital styling is really cool, I like the way it looks, though it isn't a huge overhaul and I have to admit is missing some of the features that Realme and Samsung are putting into their OSs. I appreciate the customization features here, although there aren't many that really set it apart from base Android. And whilst I feel like maybe this is not the sort of thing that most people are going to want to go for, they want something with more features, it is fairly reminiscent of actually when OnePlus first started. And of course Cyanogen and that allowed you to really delve in and go further with the customization, but the whole idea was that you didn't really have any bloatware and it kept it quite stripped back, which made the phone feel smoother. And that's kind of what's going on here. Let's talk about the cameras. They are quite important in 2023, and actually I feel like Nothing has done a really good job here. Certainly much better than early OnePlus. I rather like the standard main camera images. They look rather neutral and natural with a good amount of contrast and good colours as well. In some scenarios I found the digital noise reduction to take over a little bit, but it tends to on these not Samsung, not Pixel, not iPhone camera setups. I also found that, give it enough light and it's really good. It almost surpasses those other brands. It really impressed me how good the shots were, given that this is the company's first go at making a camera system, with the caveat obviously that a lot of these guys probably came over from Oppo. The ultra-wide shots can end up looking a little bit soft compared to the main, which is kind of distracting but also fairly understandable given that this is a mid-range smartphone, and the computational modes like portrait mode are a little bit hit and miss. I found that some shots look quite natural and actually sold the effect of having some bokeh, but at the same time there was also the ability to completely throw out the focus and really couldn't get a good sort of lock on the subject, which is a bit of a shame, but it's kind of to be expected again at this price point. Surprised at this price point, that's pretty much where I am with the Nothing Phone 1. It very much reminds me of early OnePlus. The OnePlus 3 for me was one of my favourite phones of all time, and this kind of reminds me of that. Obviously it's very different, we've kind of elevated everything in terms of technology. We've come a long way, we've got better camera systems, computational photography, but also just in the OS as well. Everything's a bit better than early OnePlus, but the whole sort of idea, the ability of having sort of a stripped back OS, relatively low end sort of price point in comparison to sort of the more expensive stuff. I know that, to some people £300 is still quite a lot for a smartphone, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, that's like a quarter of the price of some of the iPhones and Samsungs that are being released. 1 year later, still feels great. Camera feels great, performance is good, battery life, could be better, but it's kind of the same as from the factory. Design is nice, charging is good, software is great. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard not to recommend this thing for me. I really like the way that, I almost said OnePlus then. I really like the way that Nothing has committed to 3 years of software upgrades as well, so you should get another 2 after this. It's just a really decent phone for the money. I want to give a big thanks to Damien Wild for sending out this smartphone for review. It was great to check it out, finally get my hands on a Nothing product. It definitely is more than nothing. Also, sorry for the delay. Like I said, I'm really aware of my hair needing a trim and all that stuff, and I haven't uploaded in a few weeks. I had a family bereavement. It's quite a heavy one. Usually I can get through these things fairly quickly, but this one was quite close to home. So yeah, so I had to make my way through that, and I've actually been working on some stuff behind the scenes. I got another job on top of the job that I already have. I just finished a sort of a module in my university course. There's just a bunch of things came to a head at once, and hence the delay. So sorry about that. If you want more content, there should be more coming soon. There are a lot of videos that I've partially made. I just need to wrap things up on. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.